Hi, I have a book haul. These are books from my favorite authors. I've been trying to collect them. I've been very lucky because randomly, out of nowhere, I decided to go online and search for books from my favorite authors, and I saw there were a couple sellers selling secondhand copies. So I immediately grabbed as much as I can, and now I have 7 books to show you. They're mostly from Hermann Hesse. I have a few from Nietzsche, who, by the way, has become my favorite philosopher. I've read a few of his works and I've been really interested in reading actual books of his and not just like excerpts and snippets and summaries of his ideology. I don't really know how to pronounce his name. Is it Nietzsche or Nietzsche? We're gonna deal with it. One here that is not from either authors, it's sort of misplaced. It's currently the book that I'm reading, but I bet that she's gonna end up one of my favorite authors as well, because so far I'm loving the book and I've heard so much about the author and her works and how similar her books are to my usual taste of books that are geared towards philosophy. Let's begin with my book haul. I'm very excited. For a while, I've searched and searched for Hermann Hesse books, but they're quite difficult to find in the Philippines, both new copies and secondhand copies. So I don't know what's up that day when I went online and I saw a bunch of Hermann Hesse books. I have a total of 4 Hermann Hesse books. So far, I've read Damien, Siddhartha, and Beneath the Wheel. So I've read 3 of his works, and those 3 books changed my life. They've become a staple in my day-to-day conversation with friends, and they're just like the books that I really cherish, and they have a special place in my bookshelf and in my brain. So the first book here is Victor's Metamorphosis. This is a compilation of short stories, I think, not exactly a novel. So this book is a wonderful collection revealing just how long-standing was Hermann Hesse's obsession with fantasy of all kinds. Being a connoisseur of fairy tales, folk tales, Hesse experimented fruitfully in this field throughout his long life. The title story is a haunting and beautiful fable set in paradise. The allegorical account of a love affair and Victor's metamorphosis gathers together 18 more fantasies from the secret dreams and obsessions of Hermann Hesse. So yeah, apparently it's a compilation of fairy tales. I'm very excited to read this one. I don't know what is it about Hermann Hesse, but I really think his brain and my brain, we have the same wavelength. So I just really want to read all of his books if I could do that in this lifetime. So the next book I have, oh, what happened? This is one of his famous works. It's called Magister Ludi, but it's more commonly referred to as The Glass Bead Game. This is Hesse's last and greatest work, which won him the Nobel Prize for Literature. This new translation is as majestic and contemporary as its content. The award-winning translators have captured Hermann Hesse, the author of Steppenwolf and Damien, at the height of his creative and prophetic powers. And this book is the key to a full understanding of his thought. The back doesn't really say the synopsis, but I'm sure this is a novel, and I'm sure it's going to be very philosophical. Next book I have is another famous work by him, and it's called Steppenwolf. This one is a Faust-like magical story of the humanization of a middle-aged misanthrope. Steppenwolf is a book which has been violently misunderstood. The self-portrait of a man who felt himself to be half human and half wolf can also be seen as a plea for rigorous self-examination and an indictment of intellectual hypocrisy. Ooh, that sounds really intriguing. And I like how small this is. One of the best things about Hesse books is his works are usually very thin, so it's not hard to read. The last Hermann Hesse book that I have which arrived yesterday. I was waiting for this before I make this haul, is Narcisse and Goldmund. Okay, let me read the back. Narcisse is a teacher at Mariabronn, a monastery in medieval Germany. Brilliant and severe, he feels that Goldmund, his favorite pupil, will never be a scholar or a monk. So Narcisse helps Goldmund realize that they must each fulfill themselves in different ways. Narcisse retiring from the world into a patterned order of prayer and philosophy, while Goldmund quits the cloisters to plunge into a sea of blood and lust, cutting a picaresque swath through plague, storm, and murder. This element of conjectural autobiography gives to this masterpiece a ripe wisdom, an insight into universal dilemmas and man's role on earth, unique in the fiction of our time. The next book I have is The Misplaced One. I bought this a while ago. I forgot I had it, and when I was waiting for new books to read, that's when I remembered. I am currently reading it. I'm on page 110. This is a long read. It's also very old. When it arrived, it is still intact. And I think because of the changing weather in the last month, the cover completely fell apart. And now I decided to just put like a protective layer and somehow make it work. I love how old this is. The fact that it's falling apart just adds to the allure of the book. This is Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. This is a well-loved book as well. It's very philosophical. Pacing is really slow for me, but I'm only at the beginning, so definitely too early to tell. But it's a gut feeling. I know I will love this book. I need to keep reading just to make sure. The Fountainhead is about a story of a gifted young architect, his violent battle against conventional standards, and his explosive love affair with a beautiful woman who struggled to defeat him. I haven't finished this one, but I want to buy more books from her, so that's saying a lot. The last two books here are Nietzsche books. I've read about Nietzsche from a compilation of philosophies, like summarized version of his entire ideology, even though it's really impossible to summarize any sort of ideology. I really resonated with him, so I bought a tiny book by him called, I don't know, I forgot the name. What is that book? Aphorisms on Love and Hate, I think, from Penguin Classics. And that really just intensified my curiosity, so I ended up buying actual books by him. This first book actually is a compilation of two, The Genealogy of Morals and Ecce Homo. I think these two are his most famous work. I don't really know what to expect. I did not study philosophy in college, although I do have subjects in college about philosophy, but like college philosophy subjects, unless you're really studying philosophy as a course or as a major, you don't really appreciate it. Philosophy in college was mandatory, and most of the discussions are very surface level, and you get thrown like 100 philosophers in one sitting in college, so it's really impossible to absorb anything. On the Genealogy of Morals, published in 1887, is Nietzsche's major work in ethics. It shows him using philosophy, psychology, and classical philology in an effort to give new directions to an ancient discipline. The work consists of 3 essays. The first contrasts master morality and slave morality, and indicates how the term good has widely different meanings in each. The second inquiry deals with guilt and the bad conscience. The third with ascetic ideals, not only in religion but also in the academy. Ecce Homo, the second one, written in 1898, is Nietzsche's review of his life and works. It contains separate chapters on all the books he himself published. His interpretations are as fascinating as they are invaluable. Nothing Nietzsche wrote is more stunningly, stylistically, or as a human document. Ooh, I love that sentence. Another book by Nietzsche has a slightly controversial cover. It's called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. When I received this, I already started reading it because I couldn't wait and got so intrigued. but I told myself to stop because I still need to finish this book, so I put it on hold. I am loving this book so far. I wish I can keep going. It's kind of like a novel-esque type of philosophical book. Just the introduction of this book is already enough to keep me going. Thus Spoke Zarathustra 1885 was Nietzsche's own favorite among all his books and has proved to be his most popular, having sold millions of copies in many different languages. In it, he addresses the problem of how to live a fulfilling life in a world without meaning, in the aftermath of the death of God. Nietzsche's solution lies in the idea of eternal recurrence, which he calls the highest formula of affirmation that can ever be attained. A successful engagement with this profoundly Dionysian idea enables us to choose clearly among the myriad possibilities that existence offers, and thereby to affirm every moment of our lives with others on this sacred earth. Yes, whatever that means. But yeah, just like with Hess, I really resonated with Nietzsche. Rarely that happens, but when it does, I give my all. So again, just like with Hess, I'm planning to read as much as I can from Nietzsche's work, just so I understand him better. So that concludes this book haul. It's a heavy stack of books, not literally, like heavy when it comes to like intellect and philosophy. But I'm really excited to dive into these books and just feed my brain and my curiosity.